Hi there and welcome to yet another episode of Behind the Business, where we've spoke now for the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks now, should I say, and we've covered many topics that's hopefully helping you take your business from where it was, if you're taking action, to now where it is. And if you haven't started, then you need another good kick up the ass, because we're not doing this for the love of it, we're doing it to help you. So, the idea is to take on board what we're giving you in valuable content and things that you can use in your business right now to change it from where it is, to stop those struggles, get rid of the frustrations, overcoming the mind hurdles that John's been helping you with, and giving you examples and like exercises to do, and the content which I've been providing you with, which is actionable stuff that will get the job done. It will change your business. We don't say it jokingly, it actually does. Collectively, John and I must have the best part of 40 years combined with years of experience helping people in business, and of all kinds of businesses, from multi-conglomerate type of huge, groups and one thing or another, to independent business owners. So we've covered the huge range of the value of a business, the size of a business, the market share that a business or a corporation holds. So we have got that experience under our belt, and that's why we're producing these podcasts for you to watch if you are watching it live, and if you're listening to it through your provider, whether it's iTunes or whatever, when you're in the car, etc. And I do that. I listen to podcasts when I'm driving up and down the motorway to meetings, for the few meetings that I do face to face. And I know John and I spoke about before we started today's episode. So it's a great resource that we're giving you here, but it's only going to be useful if you actually take action with it. So to get things started, just quick introductions. My name's Steve Swift. I run an online course and a coaching program called Client Direction, which takes businesses from where they are now, struggling in some respects, to 6 and 7 figures and beyond, by showing them internal processes with the business, as well as how to generate leads and position themselves to be able to close deals without pitching at people and forcing themselves on themselves. And I'm going to hand over to John so he can introduce himself as well, in case this is the first episode you've actually watched of us. John.
Thank you, Steve. My name's John Child, and I help people to achieve their goals through personal growth. And if this is the first time you've watched one of our podcasts, well, shame on you. You should have watched the previous ones, because you've missed out. Go back and watch them now. And I'm being flippant, but Steve's covered something very important there. These podcasts are about action. They're about taking action. And if you've listened to these in the car or at home, wherever, and you haven't been taking the action, then it's about time you started asking yourself why you're not taking that action. But before you do that, we've got another podcast to get through today. And what are we going to be talking about, Steve?
Well, today, John, I know we as always, we have a quick conversation before we start recording these and going live. So we just refresh our memories as to what we talked about in the previous episode, and how we can flow and make that sure that ties in nicely with the next episode. And last week's was all about the importance of the research for your advertising and finding out your ideal client and the marketplace and where you can position yourself. So that's why this week I thought would be a great topic of saying, can you describe what your offer is in just 5 words and make it sound sensible to a specific type of person? And that sounds a bit jumbled up, and that's why obviously we're going to take roughly 30 minutes to dissect that and give you the understanding, and then what you need to be looking at in your business that you maybe not doing now. So almost like paradigm shifting you from thinking you're doing things right here to saying actually what you're doing is wrong, but this is why you need to look at what we're going to discuss in today's episode and how it's going to help your business. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to be getting to the point with your message, be more direct. But also, a lot of people might have talked about the elevator pitch, and I'm sure John will probably, cover something on that kind of, how that works in the mind side of things and psychology and one thing and another. And that's going to be valuable to you. So if you don't understand the principle of the process I describe and go through today, then obviously John's injection within today's episode hopefully will give a bit more meat on the bone and understanding as to why you do what you do. Because at the end of the day, if you're not describing what you do, to a specific person in the right way, using the right kind of language and terminology, then you're going to be wasting a lot of effort. You're going to potentially be feeling very deflated and defeated because you're just not getting the results that you wanted. You're putting some effort into this and it's not giving you anything back. And not to mention the lost money from your ads that are running, if you are paying for paid ads on social media and one thing or another, and it's just not, again, people aren't biting. You're not getting anybody coming into the front end of your sales funnel process. And this could all be because, yes, you've done your market research right, which is what we talked about in the previous episode, but you've not got your messaging right. So, we need to dissect that and understand what that's all about. Before I really go into it, I want to bring John in here. So to basically explain a little bit more about the mindset behind messaging and how it affects other people, how people read things and take on board. Because if you're not using the right words, it can be open for interpretation, and that can put people off if they think, well, that's not what I'm looking for, and they go away. So John, do you want to maybe jump in here and just take that on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think whenever you're putting together any kind of sales message, and that's really what we're talking about here, it's a sales message. It's you can call, there's all kinds of different highfalutin ways of describing what we're talking about, but really we're talking about a sales message, something that's going to attract people to buy. And whenever you're talking about marketing, particularly, well, actually with any kind of marketing, I read something the other day and it really hit home, and which is basically, nobody wants to read it. Nobody sees an advert and goes, oh, do you know what? I can't wait to read that. I can't wait to watch that. Nobody. Everyone's annoyed by every advert they see because it's an interruption. So if you are going to interrupt people and annoy them with your advertising message, it better resonate, it better be good, and it better be to the point and efficient. And I think that's really key, because actually, particularly in the world we live in now, which is everything's fueled by advertising, there's already a barrier. Whenever you switch your phone on and look at Facebook, or you put the television on, you're screening out advertising all the time. You walk past a bus stop, you try not to look, you automatically screen out the fact that there's advertising all over the bus and all over the bus stop. In the physical world as well as in the virtual world, those things, there's already a barrier there. So in what is called interruption marketing is where you produce an advert that interrupts people, breaks that barrier down, and says, this is what I've got to offer. Now, the problem with that is it gets people's backs up even more if it's not done well. So you've got to work out a way of attracting the right people with your message, which is exactly what Steve was just saying about getting your research right, making sure you've got that avatar correct, so that the message you put together is specific enough to those people that they go, oh, no, another advert. Oh, actually, that's really useful. And they give it a second look. And that's what we're really about. And really hooking somebody, breaking that pattern and hooking them enough with your initial message to say, I want to find out more about that. And that's really where we're at, I think. I mean, is that fair enough, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's obviously, like anything, there's a way of doing this, and what I would ask you to look at doing within your business and your takeaway from this. And I know we're fairly early into this week's episode compared to normal episodes where we obviously introduce some kind of homework kind of thing or tasks to do and to complete. I'd like to throw something in, more at the top of the time sort of thing rather than anything else. Is when you're looking to actually present something to somebody, if you don't word it in such a way that attracts them straight away, and like John was saying about the pattern interrupt and grabbing their attention, then you're on a hiding to nothing. You're going to really, really struggle with that. But how do you do that? Well, there's a set way of doing it, and the best way to do it, you can use image advertising, or you can do what they call a VSL, a video sales letter type ad. And they're a lot more engaging because they say a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, how many words does a video? It's a lot more. It's a lot more engaging. People like to be entertained, and they like to gain knowledge. We're in a time in our lives now where everything is about gaining knowledge. And if you have that knowledge, like what I do with helping businesses, like what John does with people in business and what he does, it's the knowledge we have from the years of experience and learning our craft and understanding it and constantly evolving ourselves. I mean, I'm always learning. If someone can help me be a better provider of what I do to people, as an expert in my field, then I'm going to take note and I'm going to listen to them, because it's going to help me deliver even more value to people that invest in my courses. So when we look at it, we look at an engaging video, and it's the same as if it was an image and a text. You've got to make sure the wording's right, and you've got to make sure it's broken down into pieces. And the first thing you need to do is you need to address the person that you're speaking to. And you can do that in a number of ways, depending on what your business type is, what niche market you're into, and whether it's a service or a product, it makes no difference. The structure is pretty much the same, to be honest. Yeah. And what you initially need to do is this. If you haven't got a piece of paper or a pen to hand because you're driving, for goodness sake, don't try and write anything down right now. You can watch this back later. We'll have the links in the show notes, etc., below the video on the behindthebusiness.uk website, so you can have a look at that. But the first thing is understand the person you're speaking to. And what do I mean by that? It's very simple. If you relate to their situation. So if you are, say, for example, you're an accountant, you do bookkeeping, you do year-end returns, you make sure that everything's been registered and lodged right with HMRC and all the rest of it. The people you might be targeting is because you want to help people that maybe haven't got time to do their own bookkeeping. They don't understand how to do a VAT return. Some of this, to some people listening and watching these videos, might think, well, that's dead simple. Yeah, but some people it isn't. And that's the point, but then there's other people that go, do you know what? I understand it, but I just haven't got the time. I want to be making more money doing what I'm doing. So here's the thing. Here's the positioning part of this is, let's have a look. I'm just going to literally put myself on the spot here and spitball this, but I would say something along the lines of saying, so if you're running an accountant's business right now, and you are wanting to attract people into your business, once you've done the research that we mentioned in last week's episode, the first part of your messaging could go something along the lines of, how much time are you wasting trying to work out the books? Are Excel spreadsheets doing your head in? How many fines have you had, or closely had fines and rushed and had that stress and pressures of not getting that return in by the deadline? How much time and effort has that taken you away from your business that stopped the progress of your business down, that's meant that you've missed things that could have been avoided, but because you were too busy messing around with the numbers, you've now got a problem in your business that would have been avoidable if you'd have kept your eye on the ball, but you couldn't because you were too busy doing the numbers. That's the first part. Then you lead into why you're the person to do it. You say, I totally get that. Absolutely understand the situation, because I was in a very similar situation before I learned how to be an accountant, and I've spent many years doing this now, and I've come across those situations I've just described many times. So I feel your pain. I understand the frustrations you've got in, but the bottom line is it doesn't need to be that way, and it isn't expensive to have someone look after all those really awkward tasks that need to be done. There's no escaping doing the accounts when you're a business owner. But it doesn't mean to say that you have to get bogged down with the weekly, the monthly, and the annual stuff that you need to do to keep your business finances on the right side of the law. Let me explain how I can help you fix that, remove that burden off your shoulders, so you can go, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about looking at another spreadsheet with numbers ever again, because this person is going to do it for me. All of a sudden, that person is going, yes, I'm having that one problem. It might be bookkeeping. It might be year-end returns. It might be quarterly VAT reports. It could be anything in between. But you've addressed that right at the front. And the good thing about doing that as well and doing it right at the top is All those people where it doesn't quite relate to, you'll filter them out very quickly and up front. Now, you might say, well, why would I want to put people off right up front? If they're not a good fit for your offer, you don't want them there. Simple as. Do a separate offer for those people. Don't worry about it. Be focused. Really important that. Be focused on one offer. Make it the best offer you can, and potentially a high ticket offer as well. I know that's what I tend to work with because it works for what I do and people understand that. So if you're an accountant, you can offer your best package. I know I'm talking about accounts all the time. As I say, this works with any business, literally. I know because I've worked with multiple different business types and niches, and I've used the same kind of structures and strategies, and it's worked for them. So if you take those two steps I've just said and look at how you're doing it in your business and think, what should I be doing differently? You'll soon realize that you maybe not getting your messaging right at the top correct. So it doesn't matter what happens at the end. You could have the best offer in the world. It could be phenomenal. It could be, Mount Vesuvius. It could be Everest. It could be anything. But do you know what it's not going to do? It's not going to get you the right people because your front end messaging isn't worded in the right way to get rid of the people that it doesn't mean anything to and alienate the people that it does. And that's what you need to do. You need to filter that out right at the beginning. So get the first part right, and then we can move on to the next parts. Do you kind of get where I'm coming from there, John?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And you've covered some. I wrote a couple of notes there as you were going through of things that you sparked with me there. First of all, you mentioned positioning, which is a phrase that we've been alluding to for 6 weeks, but we haven't actually mentioned explicitly. When we talk about niching, when we talk about branding, positioning is basically who are you aiming at? So all that work with the avatar, all that work with what kind of category is your product aimed at, that's positioning. And I can give you a silly example of this. Shampoo is everywhere, obviously, but there's a shampoo advert on the television which has been for a few years now. It's a German shampoo. I can't remember what it's called, but it's aimed at blokes, and it's basically I think they advertise it like racing cars or something. It's really silly. That is an example of positioning. They've got a shampoo which is probably fairly similar to every other shampoo you've ever seen in your life. They've stuck it in a grey bottle, made it look utilitarian, and said, it's for blokes, we've put a racing car on the front, right? That's an example of positioning. They position that as a male brand, right? Same company, same shampoo, white bottle with a bunch of flowers on the front, completely different positioning. Now that positioning has been put together using the research on the avatar that we've been talking about. 2 different avatars, same product, marketed and branded in completely different ways, sell in completely different ways, different message. And that's the difference. Different message for different categories, different positioning. That's key. And that's what Steve was just talking about when he mentioned positioning. So I just wanted to make that explicit. And the other thing that I wanted to bring in was Steve's just given you, if you didn't catch what Steve just said, you need to pause this, rewind it and watch it back, because that was really, Steve's just giving you a blueprint of how to produce a workable advert that's going to transform what you do, particularly with online advertising. Now, to take a step back from what Steve just taught you through, what he's talking about is leading the emotions. Do you remember last week, Steve, when we talked about when you put things together, it's about hitting people on an emotional level? That's what Steve's talking about. That's what I was talking about earlier on when I talked about interrupting people. You've got to, ideally, by the end of the time they've read your advert, you want them ready to press that button that says, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy it right now. But at the top of your advert, when they first see your message, your initial message, they're not in that mood. They're annoyed. We've just talked about that. You've interrupted them. They don't want to read your advert. So you've got to lead them from being not interested whatsoever to, I'm going to buy this now. Now, how do you do that in the shortest possible time? Whether it's through a video, whether it's through text, however you choose to do it. And I would suggest that Steve's the expert. You need to speak to him about that. But you can't go from, I don't want to know about this, to I'm going to buy this in one step. So the function of that, whatever that advert is to lead you through not interested to, oh, well, I'm a little bit interested, to, well, I'm curious, to actually that'd be really useful, to how do I do that, to I'm going to do it. Okay, there's multiple steps in what Steve's talking about. And the skill and the reason people pay Steve all the big bucks is because the skill is in getting that down to the shortest possible time and the most effective possible time. And that's the key to this. It's learn the process and then shrink it. Fair point, Steve?
Absolutely fair point, yeah. And appreciate the endorsement there, John. Well, thank you very much. But it is true that when you know something and you know a process and you know it's proven, it's going to give you consistent results, it's going to give you repeatable results, it's going to give you reliable results. Do you know what? Then you've got it. Then you've got a business that can really scale. Now, there's other things you need to look at when you're scaling a business, and that's for a completely different episode. Once you've got that recipe nailed down and you understand it, you really submerge yourself and understand it. And the only way you can do that is to have someone that's been there and done it countless times. They've gone through all the testing, they've gone through all the pitfalls and the hurdles and one thing or another. And that is what I've done over the last 16 plus years. I've spent an absolute fortune on advertising over the years. I've spent an absolute fortune investing in really high quality mentors that have helped me understand different aspects of what I've done when I've run my own businesses and when I've helped people build their businesses. So every time somebody spends £1 or a penny or £1,000 or £100,000 or £1,000,000 that I've worked with in business, that is my money they're spending. And I treat it with the utmost of respect because I want a massive return on my £1,000,000 investment. I want a big return on my £10,000 investment because it's my money. Even though it isn't, that is what I see up here. So I deliver and then I over deliver, for people. And that's what we're talking about here, is understanding the process. Now, yes, sure, you can go onto YouTube, you can get books, you can ask at networking events, virtual ones as they are at the moment. Hopefully that'll open up more. So, and if you're wondering why I'm mentioning that, it's because we're currently still in partial lockdown. That you can do that, but then what do you do? And I was speaking with a couple actually that own a business just last week actually, and I thought this was a good time to bring it up actually and not do it in last week's episode, was that they had actually spent a lot of time spinning the wheels. You know, they'd not really got any traction in the business because they'd done exactly what I've just said. They tried to find this information out for free, and it is possible to find some golden nuggets out there. Absolutely, I'm not denying that. But what I'm going to say is err on the edge of caution because it's not specific to your business. The information that's out there is something that's been recorded. It could have been ages ago and it's outdated. It doesn't fit your business model. It doesn't fit your niche market. There's a number of reasons. The audience reception to something changes. You know, I mean, we roll back 40, 50, 60 years ago. I'm not saying that I'm that old. Can't blame John, everything, but the big thing was newspapers. And if you got on the radio, wow, you had a big budget. And then TV advertising, wow. Do you realize you can actually advertise on TV now for less than £400? Some people are going to go rubbish. It's true. You can advertise on TV for less than £400 or £500, and you get a decent advert as well. Now, the drawback to that is it's on digital TV channels, and it's probably not your ITV in the middle of Coronation Street, or just so we're not, obscuring any particular channel, BBC and EastEnders or whatever, floats your boat. it's going to be one of those other channels. But do you know what? When I got my first mentor, I watched an advert that was on a TV channel, and I can't honestly remember what it was. It was some weird documentary channel, I think it was, and it was about 1:15 in the morning. At the time, I was doing some night shift work, actually, and I saw this ad on TV. It was an infomercial, and I went, this looks like what I'm looking for to help me understand business more, because it's before I'd even launched my first business. So I'm going way, way back now. And I bought into that program with that mentor. He's still my mentor today, nearly 20 years later, because he always educates me. I must have invested tens of thousands of pounds with that one person. But you know, it's paid dividend because of the amount of, income that I've been able to generate from helping businesses achieve their goals in the time frame that they are expecting, and then some, and forevermore. Once I've shared my information and my knowledge with people and helped turn the business around, it's not the end of the story. They still retain that information, that knowledge, those processes, and what to do in those circumstances to keep their business moving forward. So, the course I've got is like 8 weeks long. But people might say, well, why would anybody pay just for 8 weeks? Because what I go through in that short period of time transforms the business, gives them wins very quickly, but then those wins just continue and continue and continue. And that's why I've been able to help businesses go from 0 to over 10 million in 4 years. That's one true example. So, you need to understand this process. And like John said, go back towards the beginning. And I think we're about 15 minutes in, I think, weren't we, John, where we really started to double down on that. 10, 15 minutes into this episode, that's where I really start to talk about these first two phases. And then John follows up with what he was saying. So that would be really key for you to look at those or listen to that again, make your notes, and then take action on that in your business. Otherwise, like I said right at the beginning, you're going to get nowhere. John?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that particularly with what we're talking about today, practice makes perfect. You're not going to get this right the first time, and but what's important is that you need to think about it, because at the moment this is one of those unconscious incompetence things that most people just think, well, I can write something, I can put it out there. They don't realize that there's a level of fatigue with people and advertising of all kinds that exists, which is causing all kinds of businesses all kinds of problems, because these things, they're just, you go onto YouTube now and YouTube is funneling adverts in front of videos that never used to be there before. Who wants to sit through an advert for a window cleaner before they watch an Ozzy Osbourne video? Do you know what I mean? But this is the kind of stuff that's happening because what these big sites and well, it's not even always big sites, but what different providers are realizing is that they can make a lot of money selling advertising space, but it's not targeted in the right way. And like we said way back, I think in 1852 in episode 1, we were talking about what happens if you don't target your adverts correctly. What result does that have to people? And one of the things that Steve mentioned there was about networking as well. And I really think that if you learn a lot by getting around other people, I think. And I think, well, particularly if you're new or you're in the process of setting something up, it's very easy to say, I'll sit in front of my computer and I'm gonna put everything in place. Everything's virtual. I don't need to speak to anybody. But unless you can speak to real people and work out how people speak, if your advert uses actual speak instead of the way you'd normally type, completely different response. So get around people. You'll find out what works for you. If you're in if you're in a room full of people who are all trying to market their own business, which is what networking is, it's businesses marketing to other businesses, effectively, you will very quickly find out what works and what doesn't, because you will, within 1 hour, speak to at least 20 people who all want to tell you as quickly as possible what they do. And by the end of that hour, you will say, well, that guy got my back up. That guy annoyed me. That woman spoke to me as if I was 12 years old. And that bloke was really interested in what I did, and I want to speak to him again. Okay. That is so valuable. Now, I'm saying this as somebody, I hate face-to-face networking. Steve will tell you I've attended networking events with him before, and I hate them, because it's a room full of people trying to sell to me, and I'm trying to sell to them. But the amount you learn, and Steve's laughing because he knows that there's an anecdote coming, which I wasn't going to tell, but I'm going to now because people be wondering why he's laughing.
Oh, you've got to tell it, John. It was priceless. If I just quickly set the scene, because I know we're getting close.
I'm going to let you tell it.
No, not at all, not at all. I want you to tell it, because it's up to you. It's up to you. You can do it either way, mate. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm going to let you tell it, but I think what the anecdote Steve is about to tell you is basically it's really silly, and it was me being facetious, but there's a serious point behind it, which is you've got to know your audience, and that's really everything we've been saying about avatar positioning. Who's in the room? Who's reading your advert? Who do you want to attract, and who do you want to alienate? Going back to that 75%, 25% rule that we talked about, I think it was last week, might have been the week before. But go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so to quickly set the scene, we were at a networking event, one of the big networking events, shall we say, that we're no longer a part of, but that's another story for another day. So if ever become
nothing to do with this anecdote, of course.
No, of course not. No. But if ever you join my course, I might share it with you, or a mastermind maybe. So it's worth the money. And so what happened was I'd invited John along to attend one of these networking events that I'd been to a number of times, and we were putting on a bit of an event, so we'd really done a big push to get lots of people in the room, and it was at a local golf course, a lovely suite and everything, a massive room, chandelier. It was all seamless set. It was lovely. And the usual sort of thing where we'd go around the room. There must have been, oh John, what was it, about 45, 50 people or so in the room?
Yeah, it was a big
maybe more than that
group, wasn't it? Yeah.
I know there was one where we did about 70 odd, and the one's about 100 odd, but I think it was about 60 or 70 people anyway. Yeah. And all different, niches. There was builders, there was electricians, there was plumbers, there was accountants, there was graphic designers, web developers. I was doing marketing consultancy then for businesses. Obviously, I've now moved that on to business strategists and one thing or another. And we're going around the room, and everybody was saying what they did, and they were presenting themselves, and they were standing up, and they were saying the piece of the room, and being very concise with it all, and fantastic. And then it got to a chap that was just sat a couple of seats down from me, and he stood up and he says, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he says, basically, I'm a life coach. And what I do is I help people overcome problems with their mindset, and also the understanding of how to control the fears. And he went on and on and on.
Nobody else does what I do.
No, he bullet pointed. And he says, so come and speak to me, because there isn't anybody that can do what I do. Thank you very much for your attention. And then he sat down. John was sat to this gentleman's right. And I knew what John did, but nobody else in the room knew. So the tension was building between John and myself, because we knew. And John, as politely as you like, he just quietly stood up, moved his chair back so he had some space, and he went, hello, I'm John Childs, and I basically do what this guy does on my left. which just instantly discredited the guy on the left, because he didn't know who was in the room.
No.
He positioned himself as being the only person in the world to do what he did. What he failed to acknowledge and find out before was to go a little bit around the room, do a bit of networking before. He kept himself to himself. He thought it was the be-all and end-all of everything. He didn't take the time to actually research the room. He didn't make the effort to speak with people. He thought he was above everybody. And unfortunately, karma came and bit him on the backside. Because when he'd finished doing his talk, claiming to be the ultimate I am and the only, almost a Chesney Hawkes song coming out there, and then John just stood up and went, well, I do what he does. Yeah. And then he just sat down. He didn't really need to say anything else. And, it just goes to show you need to know who you're addressing, who you're in the company of, and how you position yourself. That's why I've said on all the episodes, I'm not the only one that does this. I'm saying you can go and find other resources if you want. Now, do you want to spend the time and waste the money and everything and go and find it and try and do it yourself and put this, build this house? You won't try and build a house on your own. You get the people in to do it. You get the experts in to do the drawings, to put the foundations down, get the building inspector on to make sure they're doing a job right. You get the experts in because you want that house built that's going to last. It's going to be stable. It's not going to fall around your family's ears and one thing or another. You want peace of mind that the roof's going to be on when you open your eyes in the morning. You're not going to be looking up at the sun, unless obviously you're living in Hawaii and you sleep in your hammock. But that's another story. So you get the experts in, and that's what I do. I take people from point A to point C and don't worry about all the problems that point B will throw at you if you don't know what you're doing. And that's why people pay me what they do, because they don't want to waste the time. They don't want to waste the money. They don't want the hassle. They want to make money. They're in business and they want to make money. And that's why they pay people like me, people like John, and other people like the accountant, example I gave earlier. So it's as simple as that, isn't it, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. And just spotted the time there, Steve. And that leads us very nicely to the to reiterating the homework that you set earlier on, which was, I believe, to think about your message.
Yep, I think it was go back to about minute 10, minute 12, something like that, to where I started, where I proper got my soapbox about it all. Start to go through.
It's usually me that goes on a rant.
was to literally just say, look, this is what you want to look at in your business. Look at it seriously. Take that little bit of time. Don't be the be all and end all, the only person in the room that does it, and then all of a sudden realize that you're not and you've got it wrong and you've got egg on your face. Don't let that happen in your business. Give yourself the best opportunity and chance to put things right. So if you go back and have a look at that, around about a minute 10, certainly no more than 15, I think, and use that in your business. Look at how you're doing things at the moment, and then take that exercise and consider what you need to do to fix that, which I think wraps up today quite nicely. There's a couple of other topics that I think we could lead on from this, which we'll let you know about, obviously, at the start of the next episode, in case we change our minds. And then we're committed to talk about something that we think, do you know what, this will be worth it. So, we'll not announce that today, but hope you've got plenty out of this. As always, if there's way, I don't know if this podcast, I know, John, you've dealt with the podcasting side of things, whether or not there's somewhere people leaving reviews or ratings or anything like that at the moment, or if we're working on that.
You can. If you're on iTunes, you can leave a review on iTunes. You can leave any comments on under the YouTube video. Again, if you've got any questions, you can either do that, or you can contact us in the. There's ways to contact us in the notes under wherever you're seeing this podcast, and we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So again, thank you very much for your time and your attendance today. Hope you got plenty out of that. But as we said at the beginning, I'm going to reiterate it once more, take action with everything that we're offering you in these free episodes. We're doing it because we want to help. We obviously want to engage with people, and a few of the people that are listening or watching, depending on which way you're doing this, may well reach out to us and want to do, more work together. And that's absolutely fine, but there's never any pressure. We're just here to serve. And if you feel we're a good fit to help you with your business, fantastic. Let's get on a call and let's have a chat and see if we can take it further. But if not, use what we're providing to you, because it will make a difference in your business. We want to see people succeed. And even if you don't join either of our courses, let us know how well your business is developing and moving forward based on the action you've taken with the content we're providing, because we'd love to hear that feedback as well. So until the next episode, I will thank you once again and enjoy the rest of your week and speak to you soon.
Take care.